wish I could say some of those words still. But we're PG products. I have to get more creative. But yes, Drew.
You are flipped.
Drew does swear a lot when he gets angry, especially if you break his neck.
Yeah, well, they're the only trousers I've got, so take them or leave them. Here we are at the Motel Hotel Holiday Inn, just outside of Newcastle City Centre, on the night that the WWE comes to Newcastle for the first time since the world caught fire. And we are going to go in there in just a moment and have a chat with Drew McIntyre. And we're going to present him with some very special artwork put together by, well, you'll find out. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. Let's go now. Come on. Come on. Let's go now. Quick. Quick. We have, at no expense spared, had an artist illustrate some of your key career moments.
Oh, really?
So it's a young artist by the name of David Lockett. And David Lockett has illustrated some moments of your wrestling career. I'm going to show you the images.
Ruin his career in this video by telling
I'm going to show you some of the images that David Lockett has put together, and we'll talk a little bit about them. So the first image is Drew McIntyre
awesome.
on the coach down south. So this goes all the way back. So you were wrestling training. You grew up in Scotland, but the wrestling training was other end of the country, wasn't it?
It was the other end of the country. Back when there was 2 wrestling schools in the whole of the UK, there was Hammerlock and FWA were the 2 schools, and it took probably 3 years of convincing to my mother before she let me go to a wrestling school, but finally when I was 15...
I'll let you hold that. I'm sure you want to hold it.
It's a masterpiece.
Thank you very much.
The camera got it. Yeah. Once I convinced my mother to finally let me go, it was FWA. She was cool with. She spoke to Mark Sloan, the trainer, on the phone, was comfortable with him, and then the journey began. It was 12 hours there, 12 hours back. I did it as often as I could afford, and looking back, it was mental. She actually agreed to let me go, a 24-hour round trip. That's a lot of support, a lot of trust.
Yes. What's something you learned on your first day of the training at the academy? What's something you learned on the first day that surprised you about wrestling?
I mean, I thought I was going to walk in and the trainers were going to point at me and say, "It's the next Rock. It's like Stone Cold Steve Austin over here." And it turns out it's a lot harder than I thought it ever would be. Suplexes and body slams and maneuvers that are, I guess, do your brother or whatever when you're growing up, or I certainly did. Don't try it at home. Were easy, obviously, but when it came to the actual wrestling, the lockups, the holds, the counter holds, it didn't come as naturally as I hoped it would, and it was very frustrating. And I did think to myself, oh no, maybe I'm not the chosen one.
You would go on to be known as the chosen one, which brings us to our second illustration as Vince McMahon's golden child, the chosen one from Vince McMahon. There you are, making your debut. all splendid.
It's awesome.
Vince is delighted to see you there, as you can tell. You've made your debut on the SmackDown roster, being introduced by Vince. That doesn't come to everybody, Drew.
I don't think it came to anybody.
No, I don't think that describe being backstage, knowing that one of the most important people in wrestling is about to go. Drew McIntyre.
I mean, sure, I would have been terrified if I knew, but nobody told me. I just knew I had a promo, and Vince was going to talk before me, and they actually never told me Vince was going to talk before me until I was in the gorilla position, about to walk to the ring. They said, Vince is going to go out, say a few words, you're going to come out at the same time and shake his hand. I was like, ooh, that's a big moment. I get to shake Vince's hand on TV and kind of in passing, and then I'll get to do my promo. Then I stood there with the rest of the world and watched him do the Chosen One promo of, this gentleman reminds me of myself, and he's simply badass, handsome son of a gun, and all the other things that he said about me, namely the future world champion part, and my jaw was hanging on the floor, and I went, okay, Drew, on you go. I was like, wait, what? Did that just happen, or I just have a fever dream? So, I found out when the rest of the world did. I went out, shook Vince's hand, had to keep a composure. It was probably a test to see how I reacted. In that kind of situation, I managed to keep myself together and talked with that voice I used to talk with. I think I had puberty, say the wrong word there. I used to talk like Andrew McIntyre for some reason.
There was like a smarminess to your voice that you sort of added in.
Yeah, I used to genuinely talk like that. Everyone in Scotland says I have this Scottish American accent now, so I think I've went a few voice changes over the years, or perhaps 2 puberties. I don't quite know.
Obviously, you've been really open about like your first run there and how it ended and how you went away and you found your voice again back in the independent world. But is there something that if you could go back and talk to that Drew there, what would you tell him?
I'd just give him a high five and
Nice.
avoid him in case he says, wait, you look like me, but older and grizzled with a beard. Like, I just wouldn't want to screw anything up with the old butterfly effect. Like, everything's happened for a reason. It's happened the way it's supposed to happen and made me who I am today. And I change one thing, maybe it screws it all up. And, you know, maybe I don't meet my wife and have the career I've had and the likes and be able to handle being champion in a worldwide pandemic. So I'd just duck him.
just to keep as far away from it as possible.
Yeah.
And plus, it might cause an issue. Back to the Future taught us that.
Yes.
You did make your comeback, and an iconic moment from Extreme Rules. There you are, face to face with obviously the Undertaker.
Obviously, I've got my
Some would
boxing
say
gloves
it
on.
just looks like an accountant on the right. It's not. It's definitely the Undertaker. It was that. I remember watching that, and many others did, and when Drew's arrived, like, this is it. Like, that was the match that... talk about going in there and being in there with The Undertaker.
This match in particular, thinking back to when I was younger and I wrestled him prior to the match where he retired Shawn Michaels, believe WrestleMania 26. An incredible match, obviously, and he ended my undefeated streak. But I look at the image of Taker and myself face to face. It looked like a child standing in front of a man. Like, there's no way I should have had any offense back then. But there's a moment in this match that I wanted to create, and thankfully Taker was cool with it when we went face to face once again all those years later. And it looked like, okay, I believe this guy can fight with this guy now. Like, this is a man versus a man. And also it was after, you know, the Goldberg match. It didn't go particularly well, and myself, Shane McMahon and Roman wanted to make sure Taker got a match he deserved and showed the fans that he still was the same guy. But yeah, it was a cool feeling. First match of the night in Philadelphia, the crowd were absolutely rocking. I was so excited, wasn't backing down whatsoever, to the point I remember during Taker's entrance where, you know, you got to sell the Undertaker, and as I always do, but I got a bit carried away and got close to him during his entrance where he was doing his hat bit, and I remember under his breath I heard, "Back the hell up." I'm in Taker's camera shot, I'm getting a bit gung-ho here, but I was so in the zone that whole match, and it was awesome, but more importantly to give, you know, Taker that moment and to remind everybody he's still got it.
Any words from Undertaker post-match?
He was very happy. It was very cool. Yeah, I built a good relationship with him now. It's when I was younger, Vince actually put Taker in charge of me. You know, that's your mentor, that's who you listen to. You don't listen to anybody but the Undertaker. And most of his lessons would go over my head. It was like a boy talking to a man, and a confused boy most of the time. And now, at this point where we're on the same wavelength, a man talking to a man, inevitably becoming friends, which is crazy.
The boy became a man. The man stepped into the Performance Center for WrestleMania.
Look at Brock in the back.
There's Brock.
Beat him and shaved his head.
His hair fell off. He was that sad. That an iconic night, and we talked about it when we had a chat over Zoom, Drew. And it's the in front of everybody and in front of nobody. A weird night had by all, but I love the story that you told. I'd love you to share it again. Because there's a bit where you talk straight down the camera. You break the fourth wall. It isn't done in wrestling very often, if at all. Talk us through like everything that you went through there on that night once more.
I went through every emotion you can possibly imagine, from being backstage at the Performance Center in silence with such a skeleton crew. I had the locker room to myself, and I'm looking around this small locker room in silence, like, all right, Drew, it's WrestleMania, you're fighting Brock Lesnar today for the title, it's the main event, get yourself motivated. And then kind of the frustration creeping in, like, oh, it should be 90,000 people. But by that point I kind of accepted what it was, and the bigger goal of entertaining the world during such a difficult time. Then walking to the trainer area, I've got the trainer taping my ankles, the one trainer in the whole building, along with the 3 commentators and the 2 camera people or whatever. Like, there's such a limited crew, it was unbelievable. But I looked at the time and it was like 10 to 12, I remember. And I was supposed to be getting on at 12, and I was like, I'm supposed to be on in 10 minutes. I was like, well, obviously you're not going to be. You're still getting your boots tied. I'm like, why am I so relaxed right now? It's the main event of WrestleMania. I'm fighting Brock Lesnar. I need to kick into gear. What is going on? So I get my boots on, etc. Obviously, we're pre-taping Mania here. I go to the backstage area or gorilla position at the Performance Center, which is just a wall. You're basically, again, sliding along till you can slip out the entranceway. And I'm standing there, still not in the zone, and I glance across and see Brock pacing around like a maniac, and I go, that's Brock Lesnar. And he's got the title on. And there's Paul Heyman. This is happening for real. And then suddenly something clicked in me where I was just suddenly ready to go. The music hit. And as soon as I walked through that curtain, I was just in the zone. Obviously, the match was only 5 minutes long. It was a very dominating victory for me, which really set the tone of who I was going to be as a champion. And Brock really, really put me over in that moment when I won the title. Obviously, instead of 90,000 people, the adrenaline racing, unable to control yourself, jumping in the crowd, waving your arms around like a maniac, or falling to your knees like I did when I won the Royal Rumble. It was just complete silence on the 3 count. I rolled to my knees, held the title, went into my own little private world, thought about all the people that sacrificed and helped me get to where I was at in that moment. I was finally WWE champion, and then I kind of came to, saw Brock's prone body beside me, and went, oh, I just beat Brock Lesnar.
Oh, that thing.
He's still lying there. He could have rolled out anytime he wanted to. He stayed there the entire time, including when I was up in the buckle posing, which was really cool of him. But yeah, and then I saw the floor camera and crawled up to it, as we've talked about before, and I've talked about a million times, and I'll talk about it a million times more because it was such a cool moment. Yeah. I reached out to the camera on the floor and said thank you to everybody that supported me throughout my career. It's the fans that made me champion. They're the ones that pointed and said, this is our guy leading to Royal Rumble, and thank you for choosing WWE during these difficult times. And as again we talked about, I assumed it'd be edited out. I did my little pose in the corner, assuming I'd go from the ground to the corner. And sure enough, they kept it in there, and I watched on my sofa, my couch, with the wife and cats, with everyone else in the world. And as soon as it happened, I was like, there it is. That's my WrestleMania moment right there. And that's probably going to be in the top 3 career moments as far as I'm concerned, because of what was going on in the world. My first title win, and it was such a real moment.
The final one is he's drawn this from. This hasn't happened yet. So pardon if this one looks amateurish in comparison.
Is it from the Newcastle street fight?
No, it's from customs leaving the airport with a sword, Tennant's and Iron Brew sticking out your
back. I'm wearing the exact outfit I'm wearing right now.
That is the exact. I don't know how he's managed that, David.
The cowboy boots could look
like
a little better, but that's okay.
When you head away from the UK, what are you looking to take back with you? Like,
it's probably going to look like this.
It's going to look like
lots of Iron Brew. I mean, I'm not obsessed with the tea cakes. Make sure you don't play this till after I leave Scotland, because I might get attacked for that. But yeah, I think most of the Iron Brew, and then getting the sword through customs is a nightmare. I really the first time walking up to the customs belt, and then they're usually just in a routine of, don't forget iPads and laptops. Sir, have you got an iPad or laptop in your bag? Well, no, I don't actually, but I have this bloody great sword.
Do they all pose with it? Like, oh, can I hold the sword for a bit? Is there any of that?
No.
Oh, I
said this does not happen, sir. That's not funny at all.
Oh, they don't do jokes.
No, but when there's a title in there, every time without fail, they will take it out, they'll wave it around just to make sure everybody in the close area sees it, so that you end up missing your flight because you're taking 30 pictures because I'm too nice to say no, even if I'm stuck.
How special are the UK fans?
Amazing. The best as far as I'm concerned. The loudest, the most passionate. And I love all the fans across the world, obviously. In America, since the fans have been back, they've been unreal every single night. But as I explained to the guys and girls in the locker room, and they ask me, like, why are they so wild in the UK? I was like, well, just watch one of our football matches, like real football, soccer, like they call it. It's a ball, you kick it with your foot, it's football. Just how crazy and passionate the crowds are. Like they're singing their songs the whole time. In an American game, I've been to baseball, American football, ice hockey, basketball, and every time somebody stands up during the game and kind of shouts their opinion, if they're frustrated, everyone looks at them and judges them, even if they're right, and they're like completely in the right to be standing up, extremely frustrated, like, oh, look at him, sit yourself down, control yourself, have some decorum. But like I was like, if in football back home, if you're not standing up the whole game, going crazy the whole game, if you're the one sitting down, you're probably going to get a bottle off your head. So that's kind of our fans, football games, and it's our fans at the wrestling matches. They're so passionate about the product. They're into it from beginning from end. I've seen it, my first run with WWE, I've seen it the 3 years I was gone as the independent scene rose up. It was unreal. I've seen it in Newcastle before with Cultaholic's original version, What Culture Pro Wrestling. I was a champion there. Broke my neck one time in Newcastle. That wasn't fun.
And you did a stonking promo afterwards that scared the life and...
I wish I could say some of those words still. We're PG products. I have to get more creative. But yes, Drew...
You are flipped.
Drew does swear a lot when he gets angry, especially if you break his neck. But yeah, our fans are just unbelievable, and I can't wait to hear them over the next few days. The guys and girls in the roster are genuinely buzzing for the fans.
We're hours away from it, so we're going to let you get ready. But Drew, thank you very much for having a chat with us today.
No, thank you for all the glorious pictures. Well? I'm going to keep them if I can.
I'd be an honour and a privilege if you did.